My name is Lydia, and at 30 years old, I watched my marriage end in a single text message. I was sitting in a high-stakes board meeting at the Willis Tower in Chicago when my phone lit up with words that would have broken any other woman. My husband Gavin told me he had found someone else, his so-called muse, and demanded I just accept the divorce quietly. He expected tears begging or a dramatic breakdown. Instead, I typed a single word in reply. Finally. Then I systematically cut off every single account he secretly lived on. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe if you have ever had to teach a harsh lesson to someone who mistook your generosity for weakness. Growing up in the competitive world of finance, I learned early on that numbers never lie, but people do. As a wealth management advisor handling portfolios for some of the most affluent families in the Midwest, my daily life was governed by logic, strategy, and risk assessment. Unfortunately, I had failed to apply those same rigorous standards to my own personal life when I married Gavin 5 years ago. Gavin presented himself to the world as a visionary tech entrepreneur, a brilliant startup founder who was always just one pitch away from changing the world. The reality was far less glamorous. Behind his tailored suits, his expensive networking dinners, and his sleek downtown office space, there was only me. I was the silent engine powering his entire existence. Long before Gavin and I ever walked down the aisle, I had established a private limited liability company to manage my own investments. When we got married, I foolishly wanted to support his dreams, so I quietly linked my corporate accounts to his business expenses. For half a decade, I paid for his servers, his developer salaries, his premium business class flights, and the platinum credit cards he flashed around town. I did it because I believed in partnership. He took it because he believed he was entitled to it. The board meeting that Tuesday afternoon was supposed to be about rebalancing international portfolios, but it quickly became the moment my blindfold was ripped off. When my phone vibrated on the mahogany conference table, I glanced down out of habit. The message preview showed Gavin's name. I opened it discreetly under the table. I have found someone else. She is my muse. Just accept the divorce and do not make this hard. A normal person might have gasped or excused themselves to run to the restroom in tears. But my training in crisis management kicked in instantly. I felt my heartbeat slow down. The sheer audacity of his message, the arrogant assumption that I would simply fold and walk away, extinguished any lingering affection I might have held for him. I typed back the word finally and set my phone to do not disturb. Without missing a beat in the presentation my colleague was delivering, I opened a new tab on my laptop. I logged directly into my primary wealth management portal. I started with the joint checking account, which was overwhelmingly funded by my bonuses, and transferred the entire balance into an individual account solely under my name. Next came the credit cards. I navigated to the corporate card dashboard and highlighted the 3 platinum cards Gavin carried in his wallet. With 3 deliberate clicks, I froze them all. Finally, I went to the automated payment schedules. I found the massive monthly wire transfers that kept his startup afloat and canceled every single one of them. In less than 4 minutes, I systematically dismantled his entire financial ecosystem while nodding thoughtfully at a pie chart projected on the screen at the front of the room. Across town, on the luxurious stretch of Michigan Avenue known as the Magnificent Mile, Gavin was busy living a lie that was about to violently expire. I would later piece together the exact sequence of events from my banking alerts and the frantic voicemails he left. Gavin was at a Cartier boutique with his 24-year-old intern Madison. This was the woman he had deemed his muse. He was attempting to buy her a $15,000 diamond bracelet to celebrate their new life together. I can perfectly picture the scene. Gavin leaning against the glass display cases projecting the aura of a wealthy tech tycoon, while Madison gazed adoringly at the sparkling jewelry. The sales associate rang up the purchase and Gavin confidently handed over his primary platinum card. The machine beeped, flashing a declined message. Gavin probably laughed it off, blaming it on a fraud alert trigger due to the high purchase amount. He handed over his second card. Declined again. The sales associate's polite smile likely faltered as Gavin began to sweat, patting his pockets for his third and final card. When that one was also rejected, the humiliation must have been absolute. Madison stood there empty-handed, while Gavin was politely but firmly shown the door by the boutique security. My phone logged 14 missed calls from him within the hour. I listened to none of them. I simply blocked his number, finished my workday, and went home to pack his belongings into garbage bags, arranging them neatly by the freight elevator of my penthouse building. Gavin was too much of a coward to face me directly after the Cartier incident. Instead of coming home to demand answers, he vanished, presumably hiding out at Madison's small apartment. 2 days later, my office phone rang. It was an aggressive divorce attorney Gavin had hastily hired on a contingency basis, clearly hoping for a massive payout. The lawyer did not even bother with pleasantries. He immediately launched into a booming lecture threatening me with severe legal action for illegally freezing marital assets and leaving his client destitute. He cited state laws and demanded that I immediately restore access to the funds or face a judge's wrath by the end of the week. I let him rant for 3 full minutes, sipping my coffee and looking out over the Chicago skyline. When he finally paused to take a breath, I spoke in the calmest, most clinical tone I could muster. "Counselor, I suggest you run a thorough background check on your client before making threats you cannot back up. The money funding his lifestyle is not and has never been marital property. Every credit card, every bank account, and every wire transfer originates from a private limited liability company established long before my marriage, of which I am the sole proprietor. I simply cut off my own company's discretionary spending. Gavin has 0 equity, 0 assets, and 0 legal claim to a single cent. You might want to ask him how he plans to pay your retainer, because your client is officially penniless." The silence on the other end of the line was absolute beautiful perfection. The lawyer stuttered, struggling to comprehend that his supposed millionaire tech founder client was actually a financially dependent fraud. I hung up the phone gently, knowing this was only the opening move in a battle I fully intended to win. The satisfying click of the phone receiver settling into its cradle echoed in the quiet expanse of my office. I took a deep breath, letting the absolute triumph of that silence wash over me. I knew Gavin well enough to picture his exact reaction when his attorney relayed the news. My husband was a man who operated entirely on borrowed bravado. Confronted with the sudden brutal reality of a zero balance, his instinct would not be to fight me directly. He would run, hide, and scramble to find a loophole that simply did not exist. True to form, Gavin did not come back to our penthouse that night. He avoided the home we shared, no doubt cowering in Madison's cramped entry-level apartment. I could easily imagine the pathetic scene, him pacing her cheap linoleum floor, furiously trying to convince his young, naive intern that this was just a temporary glitch in his grand entrepreneurial journey. He probably fed her some desperate lie about banking errors or malicious vindictiveness on my part, promising her that his high-powered legal team would crush me by morning and secure the vast fortune he claimed was his. He was dead wrong about the legal team, too. Less than 2 hours after my phone call, an email arrived in my secure corporate inbox. It was marked urgent and carried a subject line threatening an immediate court injunction for the release of marital assets. The attorney, a bulldog litigator known for intimidating wealthy spouses into quick settlements, clearly thought I had been bluffing on the phone. He demanded that all frozen accounts be reactivated by the start of the next business day, citing state statutes regarding financial abuse and spousal support. The arrogance in his formal letter was almost comical, a perfect reflection of the narcissistic client he represented. I did not panic. I did not even forward the email to my own legal counsel. I simply hit reply and attached 3 specific documents. The first was the original articles of incorporation for my private limited liability company, dated a full 3 years before Gavin and I ever signed a marriage license. The second was the operating agreement, clearly stating that I retained 100% ownership and sole discretionary authority over all disbursements. The third was the most crucial piece of evidence, a standard vendor contract. For the past 5 years, Gavin's much-boasted tech startup had never actually generated a single dime of independent revenue. From a strictly legal standpoint, his company was nothing more than a third-party vendor receiving discretionary, non-binding grant payments from my firm. There was no marital commingling of funds. There was no shared equity.